Um, and then after that, I continued reading books. And after that, soon I took an A4 paper, folded it in half so it looks like a book, drew the title.
Hello everyone, welcome to the first official Simba Capeman podcast where we'll be talking about our journey of Simba Capeman and we'll be focusing on the first book. So Kawan, you can start with that and the process of making the first book and how it went for you.
So this is more like an origin story, not of a superhero, but how the superhero's book was made. So I think that I like to say that the story started with me. Um, so as a child, I loved to read books, a lot of books. Every night when I got into bed, my mother would start reading me books. Sometimes I got ambitious, and soon enough I started reading books to my own mother. And then after that I continued reading books, and after that soon I took an A4 paper, folded it in half so it looks like a book, drew the title, wrote the title, then start writing inside the A4 paper about the story. It was quite a nostalgic time.
And was Simba Capeman your first idea or thought process, or were there other stories before that that you wrote that you want to expand on?
The first ever thing I wrote that was put public was a poem about a cat, like a cat in a, yeah, like it was about a cat like going to different places, cat going to like Paris, cat going to Eiffel Tower, and then after that I wrote my story about a boy in space. I can't remember his name. Albert Lost in Space. Yeah. My father had wrote it and he posted it on Facebook.
I remember it was first published. It was your first published, like paper, not exactly a book, but first published digital story. That's what
Yes.
I would like to
That
say
was the
that.
first published digital story, and after that, I can't remember. I don't think I did anything after that apart from just writing
I
tiny little
remember
stories.
you used to. I think we used to have a competition. If it was like I used to write a book called Jim the Fish, and you used to write something else. I think it was a robber story and being a policeman. Do you remember when we made our own story where you wrote about a bank robber and that was being chased by a policeman, and then I wrote about a policeman that was by his perspective of the story. Do
Yeah.
you remember those times?
Yes, when you copied me. So yeah, I remember the story about the bank robber. Yeah, one of very enjoyable story even till this day. I still have some papers of it.
So, so let's go on to the next part of the interview. So let's talk about Simba Capeman now. How did you think about? How did the Simba Capeman thing start?
So it wasn't called Simba Capeman at first. It was originally just called Capeman, and then we changed it to Simba Capeman. I don't know why we changed it to Simba Capeman. We just did.
I think it was because of copyright issues. So what happened is that there was already a book called Capeman, so we changed it to Simba Capeman due to that.
There was no need to say copyright issues. Anyway, yeah, so it was called Capeman. I remember the first book is mostly based off the tiny little comics I used to draw in those A4 papers. Like, you know, the first chapter of the first book is about Simba Capeman and the villain, Evil. So that was also in the tiny little comics. I written Capeman and Evil. And the stories in the first book are also based off that, but quite edited as well to make them, you know, flow better, have some more cohesion, and also a main villain. I remember when I was writing those, my favorite villain was Professor Zoologist, who is now the main villain of the first book. Yeah, anything you wanna say?
Yeah, so my role in the first book, I was not actually the author of Simba Capeman, but I was an editor. So what had happened that while he was writing his book, on laptop, it had just suddenly vanished or deleted, yeah. And then I had to go through it and edit the book again and write it again so that it could be finished before um, it could go through the illustration process, if I remember it correctly.
Yeah, I don't know what I did. I think I like deleted it. Then I accidentally saved it.
That was one problem that was there. And the thing is that it was just due, I think, 1 weekend away. The story was due 1 weekend away. So I think he reached out to me for help, and then I helped him to write and also edit the book within the span of 2 days. It was a very hectic weekend, but somehow we managed to do it. So that was one of the highlights and achievements of Simba Capeman that I would say for the first book.
Yeah. So for the first book, the story more revolved around the characters of the introducing characters of the Simba Capeman universe. Yeah, and also illustrations. There was like a problem with the illustrators. Like after 2 images, one illustrator had a problem, so another one stepped in. I don't really remember. Yeah, that's not the only problem we're gonna have with illustration. More illustration problems are going to pop up. Anyway, what else was there? The different villains and characters. Simba Capeman 1 I think has the most characters out of any Simba Capeman book to this day. It has the most variety of them. It has the most villains, most heroes, and most locations.
And the thing about the first book is that it was our first experience at writing a book, and I think what we learned is that every word that you put in a book is very critical. You have to look for everything, even one word which has a spelling mistake, you have to identify that in, let's say, 10,000 words, and that's something that we look forward to. And I feel like every word in the book has a specific element that we have to look for, and in order to make a very great book.
Yeah. So I remember while writing the first book, when I got to I think it was the 8th chapter of the book, like I originally thought the villain of the 8th chapter would be like the final boss of the book, and then I think maybe my father told me that the book had to have 10 chapters, so then I added another 2 after some time. Because
so these stories, were they like from your small A4 papers, were they like one chapter of that, like one chapter was equal to one of your A4 books that you used to write, or did you make your stories?
Yeah, one chapter was equal to one A4 book that I used to write, like I said before. And there was also a lot of cut content from the first book.
What would you say is the most difficult and the most interesting part of writing the first book?
Difficult
Experience.
The difficult part is just thinking of ideas. If I'm thinking about a new villain, who should I have? I already have this big evil guy, this green guy. I already have an evil scientist. I already have an alien. So what should I think of next? So I thought someone who has fire powers, who later became Man of Fire. I thought someone maybe who's like a scientist guy, but he's not evil intentionally. Someone else is controlling him. That's when I thought of Mr. Robot. Yeah.
For me, I think it was different. So for me, it's not about thinking about ideas. For me, it's putting giving the words justice for the characters, if you understand. So actually showing the characterization of the person, what his thoughts are, what his feelings are, and that was my problem. I think putting the ideas to paper and finding right words in order to describe an event and making it more, let's say, coherent, like you were saying. That's what it was. For me, what happened is that there are so many ideas that just come inside my brain at once. So I have like a type of problem of trying to link it, joining them together, and that I think was my most difficult part of it. And what do you think was the most interesting part of writing the first book?
Interesting part. So now this is not something which is like interesting for me anymore. Like after the second book, I was like, oh, I've already done this. It was thinking of personalities for the characters. Like let's say we took the Moth Munchers from chapter 2 of the first book. I think what should their personality be? Should they be able to speak, or should they just be like animals. Like, yeah, in their book, they are like beasts because they are aliens. Like, it's not like an alien will arrive and they're like, oh, you guys speak English, I also speak English. No, an alien has their own culture, their own tradition, and they like bring it to Earth. That's why like person characterization. Nowadays, like I don't have problem with it. Like thinking of another personality for like let's say Xanoman is quite easy for me.
Okay, I want to go to the next part of the discussion. So, celebrating 5 years of Simba Capeman and 5 years of Simba Capeman 1 as well. What would you say this feeling is? Having 5 years of your creativity coming to life. How would you say you're feeling right now?
Yeah, it feels nostalgic. Like I miss writing Simba Capeman 1, even though I'm still writing books. Yeah, like I want to write a book just like Simba Capeman 1. I'm writing books, but like I'm doing it better each and every time. So
would you say you have improved through this journey? Like your writing skills have gone better, your vocabulary has got better, and do you think the first book compared to the upcoming fifth book, would I say the fifth? Can I say the fifth book is coming out?
yeah, the fifth book is coming out. There is a fifth book. If I compare the first book to the fifth book is obviously better. It, like I said before, the first book is more like an introduction.
I would say the first book is more down to earth.
Down to earth. Yes.
I would understand. That's
Yeah.
the best way to put it. So, if you can put down in the comments, would you like something else like the first book again, where there are different mini stories inside one? That would be.
The first book, there are a bunch of mini stories inside each other. The problem is that the cohesion, like we can't have Simba Capeman fighting, let's say one bad guy, and then there's just another bad guy in the next chapter, like, and then another bad guy in the next chapter, and it goes on and on like that. Like it's just like they're just sending in guys just for in like making the plot longer. It's like not necessary. That's why
You would say that it does not have a very expansive story.
yeah, it does not have any way. It doesn't like expansive. It's not expansive. Yeah,
That's what you would say. That's one of the
that's one of like the main problems in the first book. It's more of like Simba Capeman fighting, and it's not like him trying to figure out anything. Like you're not trying. It's not him trying to figure out any mysteries. It's not him trying to like figure out like who is behind this. It's just the main villain coming up to him and saying, I'm going to rule this place, and then Simba Capeman says, no, you are not, then fight.
But I love the writing of the first book also, because I feel like it's very, like I said, down to earth, and it's different compared to the rest of the books, and that's what I really love about the first book.
Yeah, it's definitely more grounded and the most realistic the series will ever get. Like more, as you go on, the series will become more like fantasy. And after all, it's a superhero book. You can't have like a superhero book finding like a normal guy on the street. So yeah, that's like the most. I think
it's a very good origin story for Simba Capeman. If you want to introduce your world and fall in love with Simba Capeman, I would recommend reading from the first book.
And if you just want like an adventure, yeah, you just read the first book.
So sorry, it got cut. So yeah. So I was asking a question. Out of the 4 books you have written so far, what is your favorite book?
The third book, but we will get to that in due time. This one is more about the origins of Simba Capeman as a book and like how it was made. But my favorite book is the third book. Yes, even though there were some technical issues working behind it, but yeah, it makes for a fun and enjoyable read. More fun than the first and second book. The fourth book, yeah.
Yeah. For me, my favorite book was, I would say, the second book. I think Havoc is one of my favorite villains that I have written, and it introduces his mother, and it has more of a family feeling, which I think Simba Capeman should bring out more. So like respecting your family and your family values as well as your tradition. So that's what I really love about the second book. Now let's go into the next part of the place where I want to talk about the book fairs that we have gone through for Simba Capeman. So, do you remember your first book fair that we went to with Simba Capeman?
Yeah, it was the 22nd Nairobi International Book Fair.
And then after that, there was a Garden City Mall book fair. Do you think that was before or after?
You didn't even go there. How
I,
do you know
I
this?
went there for Garden City. I think you forgot.
No, you didn't go for one of the days.
I went, no, the Sarit Center one was for 5 days and I didn't go for one of the days. I remember that. But yeah, I went for the Garden City.
You missed one day of the 2 days in Garden City, I remember.
Really?
Yes, I remember. Yes. Look at the cameraman, he's smiling. Yeah. So anyway, the cameraman is our father. Hello. So apart from that, yeah, the book fairs were very nice. My favorite one was the one at Sarit Center here in Kenya, the 22nd Nairobi International Book Fair. At the time, we had only released 2 books though: Simba Capeman Saves Planet Earth from Supervillains and Simba Capeman Mission Underground. Yeah, they really sold. Yeah, a lot of people bought them, and it was just a nice experience. Like even friends came and got the book. Yeah, it was probably the best book fair I've ever gone to. And the Garden City one, it was in the middle. It was really hot outside. I was like sweating, and you didn't come for one of the days, so I just kind of sitting there. I was just sitting there waiting for people. Yeah, but at least I had company with my dad.
Yeah. Alright. I think that's all for today. If you have any other questions you want to ask.
Yeah, the next one, there's going to be another one coming soon. Stay tuned. Go to our e-commerce website, read the digital stories, buy the Simba Capeman mug, get the books. I hear there's a flash discount right now, and enjoy reading the Simba Capeman series.
Thank you everyone for watching this podcast. If you want more, we can make a series and you can tell us and by liking the video.